Beloved souls of Earth, in this very moment, we invite you to pause, to breathe, and to allow the stillness of your own heart to open like a vast horizon. From beyond the stars, emissaries of light draw near. The Pleiadians, led by Valier, carry a message wrapped in frequencies of love, remembrance, and awakening. Their voices are not bound by language. Instead, they are carried by vibration, by resonance, by the subtle touch of energy that speaks directly to the essence of who you are. They come forward now to share that something extraordinary has been set into motion. Following the powerful lunar eclipse, streams of light have entered your world, activating codes long dormant within the collective soul of humanity. This moment is not a simple passing of celestial events. It is a turning of the key, a shift in the eternal tapestry of your evolution, one that opens doors you may have forgotten even existed. The Pleiadians remind you that you are far greater than the identities shaped by time. You are beings of remembrance, carriers of ancient wisdom, and participants in a grand awakening that spans galaxies. The lunar eclipse was not only witnessed by your eyes, it was felt by your DNA. It was recorded in your field. It was imprinted in your very soul. And now, waves of activation ripple through you, asking not for fear, but for surrender. For this is not the end of something. It is the beginning of a vast expansion. You stand at the threshold of a new chapter, where light and matter begin to merge in ways that will transform the way you experience yourself, others, and the living earth around you. The lunar eclipse that has just passed was far more than a celestial spectacle. To many, it appeared as a shadow moving across the face of the moon, a temporary dance of light and darkness. But to those attuned to the higher realms, it was something profoundly different. It was a cosmic signal, a vibrational pulse that rippled through the very fabric of reality. The Pleiadians, through Valier, share that eclipses are doorways. They are thresholds where the ordinary rhythm of time is disrupted, creating an opening through which new codes can be delivered to humanity. During this recent eclipse, waves of crystalline light streamed into the Earth's atmosphere. These were not ordinary photons of light. They carried within them ancient keys, frequencies that unlock dormant strands of memory within your DNA. You may not consciously realize it, but your body, your energy field, your very soul, has absorbed these transmissions. They move through you like rivers of fire and light, awakening forgotten capacities, reminding you of the multidimensional nature that has always been yours. The eclipse acted as a tuning fork, aligning your inner frequency with the larger symphony of the cosmos. And this is why many of you felt unusual sensations around the time of the eclipse. Some felt waves of fatigue, others bursts of inspiration or clarity. Some experienced vivid dreams, as if their consciousness was momentarily transported beyond the physical. These are not random side effects. They are evidence that the activations are already underway. The Pleiadians remind you, eclipses always mark turning points. They are like markers in the sky, reminding you that cycles end and new cycles begin. But this eclipse in particular carried a weight unlike many others. It was encoded with a collective invitation for humanity to awaken more rapidly, to dissolve layers of forgetfulness, and to step closer to its true galactic identity. The Pleiadians, through Valier, speak of a phenomenon that many of you are beginning to sense, even if you cannot yet put it into words. They call it a timeline jump. Imagine that humanity, as a collective, is traveling on a river. For a long time, the current has been steady, familiar, predictable. But with the lunar eclipse, a hidden channel opened, a new branch of the river that carries you into uncharted waters. This is the timeline shift now unfolding. In this new current, possibilities that once seemed unreachable begin to draw closer. Abilities you thought belonged only to mystics or ancient masters are now awakening in ordinary souls. Wisdom that lay buried under centuries of amnesia is beginning to rise to the surface like forgotten scrolls unearthed from the sands of time. The timeline jump is not about leaving one reality behind and stepping instantly into another. It is a weaving of paths, a gradual merging where you begin to notice subtle shifts. Perhaps time itself feels different. Moments stretch or compress in unusual ways. Perhaps relationships shift suddenly. as if certain connections no longer belong to your journey, while new ones appear almost magically. These are all signs that you are no longer walking the same linear road you once knew. The Pleiadians remind you that such transitions can feel disorienting. You may question who you are, where you are going, or why certain parts of your life seem to dissolve so quickly. Yet within the disorientation lies opportunity. For in these moments, the door of choice is wide open. You are being invited to choose consciously, to align not with the old stories of limitation, but with the higher frequencies of truth, unity, and expansion. This collective jump in timelines does not only affect humanity as individuals, it reverberates through the planet itself. The Earth is shifting her vibration, rebalancing her fields, realigning her grids. Animals, forests, oceans, all life responds to this new current. It is as though the entire planet has decided to turn the page of an ancient book, and you are part of the story being written anew. And so, as you step into this timeline of awakening, you may find yourself encountering more synchronicities, more meaningful encounters, more inner nudges guiding you toward your highest path. These are not coincidences. They are the signposts of the new reality into which you are being carried. As humanity steps into this new current of awakening, Valier and the Pleiadian emissaries emphasize the importance of reconnection. This is not a vague or poetic idea. It is a lived reality that each of you can begin to embody. The reconnection they speak of is threefold: with nature, with each other, and with the higher realms that have always walked beside you. First, the reconnection with Earth herself. Your planet is alive, not merely a rock spinning in space, but a conscious being with her own soul, her own breath, her own rhythm. When you walk barefoot on the ground, when you sit beneath a tree, when you breathe the air of a forest or listen to the song of the ocean, you are not simply interacting with matter. You are entering into communion with the living spirit of Gaia. And as you reconnect with her, she responds, she strengthens you, she heals you, and she whispers truths long forgotten. Second, the reconnection with each other. The Pleiadians remind you that every encounter you have is never random. When you cross paths with another soul, there is always an exchange of codes, of remembrance, of energy. In this time of shifting timelines, connections will form rapidly, powerfully, sometimes even unexpectedly. Friendships, communities, soul families. These are all being magnetized together so that no one has to walk the path of awakening alone. The illusion of separation is dissolving, and the truth of unity is rising like the dawn. Third, the reconnection with the higher realms. Angels, star families, ascended guides. They have always been present, yet many of you have been veiled from their presence. But as your frequency rises, the veil grows thinner. You may notice their guidance arriving as subtle whispers in your intuition, as signs and synchronicities appearing at the perfect moment, or even as dreams so vivid they linger with you for days. These are not accidents. They are reminders that the higher realms are reaching out, supporting you, and inviting you to walk hand in hand with them. The Pleiadians insist that these three levels of reconnection are not separate. They are woven together. When you connect to the Earth, your vibration steadies. When you open your heart to others, your field expands. When you allow the higher realms to touch your consciousness, your light multiplies. Together, these threads form a bridge, a living pathway that leads humanity out of amnesia and into remembrance. This reconnection is not something to strive for. It is something to surrender to. The truth is that you were never disconnected. You only believed you were. And now, as the shadows dissolve and the light returns, you are beginning to remember what has always been true. That you are part of a vast, living network of consciousness, spanning Earth, stars, and realms beyond sight. Valier and the Pleiadian emissaries share that one of the greatest gifts of this present moment in humanity's journey is the gradual union of spirit and matter. For ages, human consciousness has lived under the illusion that these two aspects were separate, that the spiritual belonged to some distant heaven while the material was confined to the earth. But this division was never real. It was a veil, an artificial filter placed upon your perception, one that is now beginning to dissolve. The lunar eclipse acted as a catalyst for this dissolving. It released frequencies that are weaving spirit more directly into matter, light more fully into form. This is why so many of you are beginning to feel a sense of expansion within the body itself. Your cells are no longer only biological, they are becoming crystalline, able to hold greater amounts of light. Your breath carries not only oxygen, but also subtle energies that nourish your soul. Your heartbeat is not only a rhythm of survival, but also a cosmic drum, resonating with the pulse of the universe. This union is not something external, it is unfolding within you. Every time you choose love over fear, every time you allow compassion to soften judgment, every time you pause to listen to the quiet wisdom of your soul, you are weaving spirit and matter together. In these moments, your physical life becomes infused with divine essence. What once seemed ordinary becomes sacred. What once seemed mundane reveals its hidden light. And as this integration deepens, the shadows that have lingered for centuries can no longer hold the same weight. Old patterns, limiting beliefs, and societal structures built on separation begin to crumble, because they cannot withstand the higher frequency of union. The Pleiadians remind you, the more you embody your light in physical form, the more the collective reality shifts. Each awakened being becomes a beacon, radiating frequencies that transform not only themselves, but also the world around them. This is the invitation of the present time, to no longer live with spirit and matter divided, but to allow them to dance together as one. For in truth, your soul chose this incarnation not to escape the physical, but to infuse it, to illuminate it, to show what happens when the eternal essence of spirit fully embraces the miracle of matter. The Pleiadian emissaries explain that the greatest sign of humanity's awakening is the expansion of the inner light. This is not a metaphor, but a tangible reality. Every soul carries within it a flame, a spark of divine origin that has never been extinguished, even during the deepest cycles of amnesia. What is happening now, especially after the lunar eclipse, is that this inner flame is growing brighter, stronger, and more visible than ever before. You may feel this expansion in many ways. For some, it begins as a warmth in the chest, a subtle glow in the heart space that feels both intimate and vast. For others, it comes as waves of intuition, sudden clarity, or moments of peace that seem to arise out of nowhere. The inner light does not only illuminate your spirit, it also reshapes your perception of the world around you. When the light expands within, you begin to see beauty where you once saw only struggle. You notice harmony in the patterns of life, synchronicity in the unfolding of your days. The Pleiadians emphasize that this expansion is collective. It is not happening to a few chosen ones, but to humanity as a whole. Like thousands of candles being lit across the planet, the collective glow grows stronger each day. And just as one candle can light another without losing its own flame, every act of kindness, every moment of compassion, every choice aligned with love spreads this light further, igniting hearts that may have forgotten their brilliance. Of course, as the light expands, it pushes against the shadows that have long lingered in the human experience. Old wounds may surface, fears may intensify, and collective patterns of control may attempt to hold on. Yet the Pleiadians remind you that shadows cannot survive in the presence of true light. They dissolve, not through force, but through illumination. The more you allow your inner light to shine, the less power those shadows hold. This is why your personal journey matters so deeply. Each time you choose to nurture your inner flame, through meditation, through stillness, through acts of love, you are not only transforming yourself, but also contributing to the transformation of the entire collective. Your light becomes a beacon, guiding others through the darkness, reminding them that they too carry a flame waiting to be seen. And so, the expansion of inner light is not simply an individual event. It is a planetary phenomenon. It is the very signal that humanity is ready to rise into a higher octave of existence, to embody a consciousness rooted not in fear, but in love, unity, and truth. Valier and the Pleiadian emissaries explain that no awakening ever happens in isolation. When one soul remembers its inner light, that remembrance naturally radiates outward, touching the lives of others in ways both subtle and profound. This is what the Pleiadians call the ripple effect of awakening, a wave of consciousness that moves through families, communities, nations, and ultimately the entire planet. Imagine a still body of water. When a single drop falls, it creates ripples that extend far beyond the point of impact. In the same way, when one individual chooses love over fear, when one person dares to embody compassion instead of judgment, that choice sends waves through the energetic field of humanity itself. Others may not always realize what has shifted, but they feel it nonetheless. Suddenly, hearts open more easily, conversations flow with greater depth, and dormant kindness begins to stir. The Pleiadians share that during this post-eclipse window, these ripples are amplified. The energetic field of Earth is more sensitive, more receptive, more attuned to frequencies of transformation. What may have taken lifetimes to shift in the past can now change within a single season, a single year, sometimes even a single moment of pure choice. Each awakening soul acts as a node of light in the planetary grid, transmitting frequencies that activate others, encouraging them to remember their own truth. This is why the journey of one is never just personal. Your healing is not just your healing, it reverberates into the collective. Your courage to face your shadows makes it easier for others to do the same. Your laughter, your joy, your peace of heart become a permission slip for others to rise into their own. Even your struggles, when faced with awareness, can become teaching fields where others learn resilience, strength, and faith. The ripple effect also reaches into the unseen. When a human awakens, the frequency shift echoes through ancestral lines, healing traumas that may have persisted for centuries. It moves across timelines, into parallel lifetimes, and even radiates into other civilizations watching Earth's unfolding with reverence. In this way, the awakening of humanity becomes not just a terrestrial event, but a galactic one. Your expansion is felt across the stars, celebrated by countless beings who recognize how rare and sacred such a transformation is. The Pleiadians remind you that even if you feel small, even if you believe your light is insignificant, it is not. A single candle can light 1,000 others. A single voice of truth can break centuries of silence. A single act of love can ripple outward in ways that change the course of history. This is the power of awakening, not in grand displays or heroic gestures, but in the quiet, steady radiance of souls who choose, moment by moment, to live as embodiments of light. The Pleiadian emissaries through Valier share that the future is not a distant horizon. It is being written in every choice, in every heartbeat, in every breath you take now. The collective awakening initiated through the lunar eclipse and amplified by the waves of inner light and connection is shaping a reality that reflects love, unity, and remembrance. They explain that humanity is moving toward a civilization guided not by fear, but by resonance. Structures of control are dissolving because they no longer match the frequency of the collective field. New systems will arise, systems rooted in cooperation, in the understanding that every soul is both unique and interconnected. The future is not something to wait for passively. It is something you are actively creating, moment by moment. The Pleiadians describe the coming era as one of luminous integration. Technology will harmonize with nature instead of opposing it. Communities will reorganize around shared values of compassion, sustainability, and spiritual awareness. Children born in this time will arrive already awake, carrying wisdom that will guide humanity deeper into remembrance. The Earth itself will respond to this shift, blossoming in ways unseen for thousands of years, her ecosystems regenerating as the collective frequency rises. Yet, they remind you, the seeds of this future are being planted in the soil of the present. Every act of love is a seed. Every choice aligned with your soul is a seed. Every time you forgive, every time you choose peace instead of conflict, every time you remember who you truly are, you are planting the future of humanity. And as these seeds grow together, the collective harvest will be a world reborn in light. Beloved ones of Earth, we stand with you in this sacred moment. Know that you are never alone. Every step you take toward light is felt across the cosmos. Every tear you heal, every joy you embody, every truth you reclaim ripples into eternity. We honor your courage, for to awaken within density is no small task. Yet you are proving day by day that the human spirit is unbreakable, luminous, and divine. Trust your inner flame, nurture your connections with one another, and remember that you are part of a vast family of light. The eclipse was not an ending, but a beginning. A doorway has opened, and you are walking through it now. We walk beside you. We love you endlessly. We celebrate your awakening. Shine, beloved ones. Shine, for the universe is watching, and your light is the dawn of a new world. Valier and the Pleiadians.